And a very good morning, afternoon. It's Friday. It's the end of the week, weekend coming up. Thank you very much for listening. Whatever time zone you happen to be in, welcome to the show. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Of course, you might be listening to us on one of our podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts or Google. We're all over the place. We're very easy to get a hold of. Even so, we're even easier to get a hold of. If you want to get in touch with us, just send us an email at the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. That's the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. We got a full day on tap for today. We're going to take a close look, check the line movement, and see in which direction the pros are going in two basketball games, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks, and of course, the Phoenix Suns and the Denver Nuggets. We're also going to have two baseball games on tap as well, taking a look at the Padres against the Mets and the Braves against the Marlins. Now, when it comes to the baseball, because of time constrictions, we're not going to have enough time to talk in detail about them, but we will tell you who they are and kind of give you some thoughts and ideas of why they are the choices of the pros as well. So we'll go into that. We're also going to spend some time talking about some handicapping tips and betting tips, especially when it comes to why we follow the pros. Why do we do that? Okay. We're going to go into more detail about that, try to give you some ideas and thoughts about handling your own handicapping situations. Perhaps you want to incorporate some of the stuff we talk about into whatever system you're using, or perhaps you're brand new into the situation and you're starting to adopt some of the stuff we're talking about as your primary way of selecting teams. So we'll go into some of that. That's what we're here for. We're here to try to make you a better sports handicapper. So let's get started. First, as always, we always take a look at what happened the day before as far as sports betting is concerned. I know you know the scores. You probably know everything that happened, but I want to bring you up to date as to how well the favorites are holding up against the underdogs and the home teams against the road teams. These are types of stats that you should be well aware of and kind of keep it as one of the arrows in your quiver as you're putting the things together to pick whatever game, whatever team you're going to wind up playing. So starting off with the National Hockey League, the Golden Knights from Las Vegas, minus 135 on the money line, beat the Avalanche here in Denver, Colorado, 6-3 to clinch their second round series 4-2. The favorites finished 11-10 in this round, and they lead 34-29 overall in the playoffs. Now, remember, we talked about this before. If you started betting the National Hockey League from the beginning of the season right on through up until the playoffs, the favorites really dominated. In fact, for a while there, we were following the pros on some of the games. We were up in that plus 64, 5, 6% bracket as well. And of course, they've been doing very well that way as well. But once they got into the playoffs, the dogs jumped out of their houses, started barking loud and clear. 11-10, that's not bad at all. 34-29, not bad at all also. Now, as far as home teams are concerned, they're 11-10 in this round, and overall 34-32. The overs and unders, they lead 10-10-1 in this round. Okay, they're tied actually 10-10, and the unders are leading at 34-31, which is such a big difference as well. So that's the National Hockey League. Meanwhile, over in the NBA, a lot of stuff going on over there. Oh, the Utah Jazz, a 2.5-point favorite, held off the Clippers 117-111 to take their 2-0 lead in their second round of their series. The total went over the 223 mark. Now, earlier in the night, the Bucks 3.5-point favorites beat the Nets 86-83. but that half a point came into play there, and they did not cover. So now they're 2-1. Nets won 2 games. They lost 1 game. And of course, the total stayed under that 234 and a half. Now, keeping that in mind, just looking at that half a point, and of course, we're talking about Las Vegas numbers. Perhaps you got 4, perhaps you got 3. It all depends, but I'm just giving you a general idea as to what it was. But the importance of that having more than one sports book to deal with, because one sports book could have been at 3.5. You could have had another sports book could have been at 3, and maybe another sports book that could have been at 4. So depending on which direction you were looking, one of those would have been the better place to be. But that's a story we've been telling you. We've been trying to pound that into you over the past 5 years. Hopefully, it's taking hold with most of you out there. There's nothing wrong with having 3 or 4 accounts out there. Okay. Yeah, you don't need any loyalty to any one or two of them. The more you have, the better chance you have of showing some sort of a profit by the end of the season. Now, the favorites improved 7-2 straight up in this round, but as far as being against the spread, 5-3-1 against the spread. The favorites are 37-15 straight up, but they're 33-18 against the spread, which brings you close to 65% overall in the playoffs. The home teams improved to 6-2 against the spread, and this round they're 28-23 against the spread overall, which is like 55%. Now, if you're into zigzag, you were 0-2 against the spread, okay? Drop down to 40%. I don't know why you're doing that. If you are, I think maybe starting this weekend, we're just going to forget about that zigzag statistic, because if you're doing that, you're definitely losing a lot of money. The unders lead 6-3 in this round, but the overs still hold the lead 26-25. Now, taking a look at Major League Baseball, the favorites went 5-3. The Astros Red Sox closed as a pick'em in Las Vegas, maybe not where you are, but they closed as a pick'em in Vegas, including the Dodgers, minus 240 on the money line against the Pirates in a rain-shortened game. So he had no action because the game was called in the top of the 8th. Okay, so that's the story there. Upsets by the White Sox, plus 100 against the Blue Jays. The Twins are plus 128 against the Yankees. And the Royals are plus 133 against the A's. The favorites now lead at almost 57%, 56.6 to be exact. The overs went 5-3 with the no action in there as well, but the unders still lead 445-444. Not very much of a difference in that category as well. So that's the story as to what happened yesterday as far as betting was concerned in the major sports that we're taking a look at. And of course, that's all we need to talk about there. So let's take our first break. And if you've listened to the show before, you know that we take 3 breaks within the show. Each one is of about a 1 minute or so duration. And so that's the story. We will be back in 1 minute. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, right here live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Of course, podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. We're everywhere. Very easy to get a hold of. So, like we said, we're going to take a look at two basketball games. We have two baseball games to take a look at as well. So, let's take a close look and see how the line movement is going on two games in the NBA playoffs or for tonight. And we'll try to bring you up to date as to the title odds. We got them from BetMGM. They've been updated. We'll let you know what those are as well. To begin with, at 7:30 p.m. tonight, the Philadelphia 76ers down in Atlanta to play the Atlanta Hawks. This is game 3 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. The series is tied at 1-1. The Hawks won the first one, 128 to 124. They won that game outright. They were 4.5-point road dogs in that game. And then the 76ers came right back. A big blowout win, 118 to 102 in game 2, easily covering as 6.5-point home favorites in that game. So now the series shifts down from Philadelphia down to Atlanta. This is game 3. And looking at the line, it opened with Philadelphia listed as a 2-point road favorite in this game. And the public, of course, they're betting their money to lay that short spread on the 76ers. The public is looking, they figured, hey, 2 points, I think that's an easy thing to cover. However, despite all this action that's coming in from the public, we've seen Philadelphia drop from being a 2 to a 1.5-point favorite. Now, some of the shops, as we looked on before we came on the air, were even down to 1 in some instances as well. So what this means is that the pros are using what we call a reverse line movement, buying low on the Hawks, jumping on Atlanta, getting in when it was 2 at the opener, and going in as well. The Hawks also have value because they're a contrarian home dog in a game that's going to be very heavily bet this evening. The total opened at 224.5. Hasn't budged since then. When the total is 220 or more, keep this in mind, the over is 61% so far in this postseason play. Now, with the series tied at 1-1, the 76ers are at a minus 250 on the money line as a favorite to move up in the standings. The Hawks are a plus 200 dog to come back and win the series as well. So in this particular game, the general public heavily in on the 76ers, especially after that big blowout win. They won 118 to 102, and now you only have to give 1.5 or 2 or 1. Boy, it seems very, very good. It's just one of those things you look at and say, oh, how can this miss? Well, sometimes it does. But anyway, that's the story. Pros are on the underdog on this team. In this game, they like the Atlanta Hawks to come back and win this game. Meanwhile, at 10 o'clock, the late game, the Phoenix Suns traveling out to Denver to play the Denver Nuggets. And once again, this is game 3 of the Western Conference semis. The Suns have a commanding 2-0 lead after winning and covering those first 2 games that they played in Phoenix. The Suns won the first game 122 to 105. They won the second game 123 to 98. They covered as 5.5-point home favorites both times, both games. So now the series comes to Phoenix, from Phoenix to Denver. The game 3, the line opened with the Nuggets as a short 1.5-point home favorite. Nuggets, 1.5-point home favorite at the open. The public can't believe that the red hot Suns are an underdog. and they're hammering the Suns taking the points. However, once again, there's that however, despite this lopsided support and all these bets coming in, the line has remained frozen, hasn't moved. Nuggets are still 1.5 point favorites at home. And what this simply means is a freeze on Denver. The odds makers are not willing to drop the spread because they don't want to hand out a better number to the Nuggets backers, okay? Because they'll be the dogs in this game. So Denver also in the situation is what we have called fading the trendy dog. Fade the trendy dog. They have value as a contrarian favorite in a heavily bet game. It's the late game, prime time. The short favorites, remember, at 5 points or less, are at 67% so far this postseason. Also, the favorites off of a blowout loss of 10 points or more have been a smart buy low bet in their next game, and that's at 57%, and that's against the spread. Not only this year, but over the past 10 years as well. Now, the under has also taken in some pro money as well, dropped from 223.5 to 22.5. So far the unders are 6-3 in round two, up 2-0. The Suns are now minus 800 favorites to win the series. The Nuggets are a plus 550 as a dog. So in this game, the pros are on the Denver Nuggets. To recap the first game, the Sixers against the Hawks. The pros are on the Hawks in this game and the Nuggets in the second game. So in both situations, they're going with the underdog, which is really no surprise because generally speaking, they are contrarian in their solutions. They do look for value. That's the important thing. If they can get an edge, if there's value in betting on a favorite, they will definitely go in that direction. So that's the story on the two games for tonight. In the meantime, BetMGM sent over their updated NBA title odds, and here's how they look. The Nets are still on top, plus 120. The Jazz are at plus 275. The Suns are plus 600. 76ers plus 1,000. The Bucks at plus 1,200. Clippers at 1,600. The Hawks at 5,000. And if you're really looking for a long shot, the Nuggets at 8,000. So that's the latest out of BetMGM as far as the odds are concerned as to who will win the NBA title. So that's the story on the NBA. Before we go off the air, of course, we'll recap the two games we talked about in case you missed it earlier. We'll definitely go over it once again. And of course, we try to do it just before we go off the air as well. So that's the story with the NBA. We're going to take our second break. And when we come back, we have two baseball games to take a look at. And like I said, we're not going to have as much detail. We're not going to go into all the line movements and everything about it, just to let you know that in the Padres against the Mets and the Braves against the Marlins, we'll let you know in which direction the pros are leaning in those two particular games. So we'll be back into the sports wagering zone right after this. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo, coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, on the I 95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your favorite podcast platforms as well. Welcome to the show. If you're new, if you've been a listener before, thank you very much for listening. I hope the new people coming on board stay with us. We're trying to make a better handicapper out of you. That's the whole story. That's the general idea of what the show is all about. So we're talking about baseball now. We have two games to talk about. Not much to say because of time constrictions, don't have enough time to go into all the details on it as we normally would, because we have the NBA that we just got finished with as well. So the first game we're looking at, the Padres against the Mets. And in this particular game, Blake Snell is pitching for the San Diego Padres, and the market seems to be somewhere about plus 150 or better. Okay. And we kind of look, and the pros seem to think there's good value in betting on the Padres to upset the Mets in this game. The Mets, of course, they're going to be pitching Jacob deGrom. And of course, with deGrom being rated as the best pitcher in Major League Baseball, just ahead of Gerrit Cole. So we kind of fully recognize that we're kind of looking and betting for value here. That's what we're looking for in this particular game. And again, despite the Padres' recent struggles, one of the bets on the Padres is a pretty good bet on the money line, because they did beat the Mets before, so there's no problem there. Despite their struggles, we still like the Padres in this game on the money line. So in the game with the Mets, between the Padres and the Mets, the pros on the dog, the Padres as well. Meanwhile, the Braves and the Marlins, that's another good game, another underdog pick as well. Looking somewhere about 120, maybe a little lower, maybe 115, again, depending on what sportsbook you're dealing with. You got Charlie Morton and the Atlanta Braves, and the Marlins are slight underdogs in this game. And of course, it kind of looks like the pros like the situation the way it's set up. We're looking again on the dog side of about plus 115 or even more. In most of the bets that are coming in, it's pretty much of a toss-up, okay? But with Sandy Alcantara pitching for the Marlins against Charlie Morton for the Braves, we kind of feel that this is going to lean it in that direction. When I say we, I'm talking about the pros. So that's the story there. The two baseball games for today, once again, you have the Mets and the Padres. In that particular game, the Padres are the choice. Braves against the Marlins. The pros are on the Marlins as well. Those are the two games, and they're both underdogs as well. So I want to take a few minutes to say yesterday, just to give you a general idea how things have been going with this little method of ours. We had three games yesterday on tap. At Colorado against Miami, we had Miami in that game, and that was a winner. We had Toronto against the White Sox. We had the White Sox in that game. That was a winner. The Royals against the Athletics. We had the A's, and that was the loser. So we had two winners and one loser. The day before that, two winners and one loser as well. Overall, we're just about close to 54% as far as the way the pros, that's, again, it's not us picking, it's letting you know which direction the pros are going. But just to give you an idea, what I think the show is doing a good service to the guys out there that are listening. If you're really interested and you want to be ahead, not going to make you a millionaire, just saying so that at the end of the season, you've got more money in your pocket than less when you first started out with. Got some emails over the past few days, big baseball emails, because again, it's really the baseball season. The NBA is coming to an end real soon. So, and what I'm seeing from the emails that are coming in is that you guys out there are listening to the information, and then you're going off a little bit onto your own. So you're starting to think out of the box slightly. I don't want to mention any names because I didn't get their permission. But anyway, I did get some emails yesterday, and one of them was kind of interesting. The one was a question as to looking at the dogs, because we are contrarians here. We love betting dogs. The question that was posed was, if you look at all the games so far and you look at the dogs that are at plus 175 on the money line or more, okay, kind of asked me how well that would have done. So we went into our archives, looked through everything, came up with this very, very interesting statistic, and a very good question and very good answer for you as well if you're interested in going out. That's what I'm saying. As we're telling you about these numbers, we're telling you where the pros are going, then you can read in between those lines sometimes and improve upon whatever is being said. So taking a look at the selections that the pros have had. Now, also taking a look at all the games if you want to. In this situation, all games with a plus 170 or more on the money line. Going into through the month of April, there were 70 plays where games and one team within that game was at least at a plus 170 or more on the money line. We had 31 winners. Okay. That comes out to a 44.2% average. So looking at it from a money perspective, if you were betting $100 bets, we just use that as a number. You can cut it in half or a quarter, depending on how much you actual wager, or double it if you're betting more. Okay. But if you're betting just $100, that's easy to figure because you got the 100, 110. Okay. It would have cost you $3,900. Okay. You would have bet $3,900. You'd have come up with $5,270. Then you make all the adjustments for the wins and losses and things of that nature. And of course, when all is said and done, you're going to wind up with well over $1,600 in profit for the whole month. So that, again, that kind of shows you, if you kind of dig into some of this stuff, it gets you thinking. And that's what we're trying to do. Get you to think, look at it and say, hey, what if I look at it from this perspective? What if I look at it from that window? That's the whole idea of what we're doing. So I think we're being successful in that quest that we're trying to do. So thank you very much for listening. Let's take our last break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at, see why we like betting the way the pros are betting, kind of give you some tips and ideas on other situations and why we bet that way. So we'll be back into the zone right after this. And welcome to the show. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Just getting back to that plus 170 or more, okay? Plus 170 or more. Looking at the numbers totally, okay, you would have lost $3,900, but then you would have got back 5,270. That's why you have the difference of well over 15, 16, because some of them are even 200, 220s, 225s, okay? So you would have well over $1,600 in profit had you bet $100. If you bet $50, just cut that in half, okay? If you bet twice as much, you made twice as much money. That's the difference. That's why the pros do very, very well. All they need is a small percentage difference, but they're betting $10,000 a game or more, somewhere in that category. So of course they're going to make more money than you're making at your $50 bet or your $100 bet, but it's all relative. Percentage wise, it all comes out the same. So the big question I'm always asked is, so what really separates the pros from the general public, the casual bettor, people like us that, like to bet every game if we can. We're kind of like doing it. We're for fun or whatever. There's a misperception that the pros have this great information. They get it, they can make a phone call, they'll get people to call them, tell them who's pitching, who's not pitching, who's hurt, who's not. That's really not how it works. Maybe at one point in time, maybe it did, but now it doesn't, because they bet bigger because they have bigger bankrolls, no doubt about it. The pros are still grinding it out with small edges. We're always looking for the edge. And because of that 11-10 VIG on sports, you risk $11 to win $10 or anything of that particular ratio, let's say. Your break-even point is 52.4%, okay? Now, if you're new to sports betting, you might be surprised to learn that the pros only win about 53, 55, 57%, let's say, of their opinions over a long period of time. Now, they've been doing this for decades. Now, it's easy to kind of look at it from this way. As a recreational bettor, you're basically flipping a coin and you're going to hit 50% on your picks. If that's what you're doing, you'll be at 50%. That's a losing record because the VIG is going to kill you. The pros achieve something more like 6 to 5 out of every 11 picks, which is 54.5%, or maybe 23 plays and 20 wins. And 20 losses, 23 plays, 20 losses, 3 wins over several days, which brings them at 53.4%. Now, that's a small difference, and it's a very small sample size we're talking about. But if you multiply that by time, months, years, the pros grind out a really nice living, while the everyday people, you guys, you dig holes for yourselves, and sometimes you can't even climb out of it. It's sports betting math in a nutshell. What really hurts the general public is you love to parlay your opinions. That's what drops your bet record under 50-50. Parlays do offer large payouts. There's no doubt about it. You're always going to have somebody tell you, oh, yeah, I played a parlay. I hit it for so much. But they don't tell you all the other ones you lost. You have to sweep all the games that are being played. It's hard enough just to pick one winner. You got to pick 5 out of 5. Okay, so kind of stay away from the parlays if you can. And here are some more things to think about. The real world of betting and the math behind it. That's what we're here about. That's what we're always talking about. Okay. Don't discredit the opinions of what the pros are saying because you see that they lose games. There's no doubt about it. They had 3 picks yesterday. One of them was a loser. Okay. There have been days where they've had 3 picks. All 3 did not come in. And then they had days where they had 3 picks and all 3 came in. Now, it may seem that they're wrong a lot of the time, but the pros are going to lose 46 to 47 out of every 100 bets over a long period of time. Okay. Now, to a lot of bettors who are not experienced, and of course to the media people out there that are always talking about it and trying to tell you how great they are and stuff of that nature, top poker players even, they don't win every hand as well. The pros don't win every game. So whenever you hear about a really huge bet, a topic that's really become very popular as far as the mainstream media is concerned, they love to jump on somebody when somebody's hitting big, okay? They'll let you know about it. These are publicity-driven stories. They're easy to find because the sports books They want you to know about that, okay? You'll find a lot of those super large bets are inflated point spreads or even inflated money lines. Sportsbooks only accept monster wagers when the math is in their favor. They don't want to lose money, and they generally don't. Okay. Over the long haul, they've been winners. Just look at those buildings down there in Las Vegas. They've been around for many, many decades. The pros grind within the parameters of a real sound bankroll management series. Now, the difference between you being a winner or a loser in this particular field is actually pretty small on a per day basis. Stop chasing those parlays. Don't bet uninformed teams on TV games, especially, okay? Just because you want to have something to sweat and bet, don't bet it just because it's on TV. Don't place big bets on your strongest opinions until you have a track record that justifies that level of confidence. Otherwise, kind of put things together. Listen to what the pros are saying. I'm not saying bet with them all the time or even bet against them all the time, but at least use them in your situation and maybe make it part of whatever system you're doing. Respect the realities of sports betting math. So this way you can bet smart as well. Remember, numbers don't lie. They go on all the time. They go on forever and ever and ever, as they say. So just some information for you, kind of tell you why we do bet with the pros. We follow them. We let them do all the work. Yeah, they're going to have a 52, 53%, 54% mark over the long haul. If you stay with it, you try it out, you're going to be a winner at the end. How much you win depends on how much you bet. You can't be making $10, $20 bets and expect to make a living out of it, okay? It has to do with how much money you're actually betting. The margin of difference is very small. And these are the guys that do it for a living. They spend all day just going over their numbers. There are various target numbers that they set up. They see the line come out. And if their line doesn't agree with the line that is coming out, that's the direction they go. That's the value they're looking at. If they look at a game and they kind of figure the line should be 6 points, and that's what the sports books are doing, they'll stay away from that game. They'll look at a game where there's a difference, where they have a different number than what Vegas has or the sports book, whatever they're dealing with at the time. Okay. So that's the rate. Really, that's the story behind it. The math is there. Stay with it. Take a look at it. Chart it. Look at it overall. Look at it and think about, what can I do to make it better? Okay. Like we're talking about this plus 170 situation. All right. All of a sudden, someone out there thought about, hey, boy, there's a lot of pitchers out there like DeGrom and some of the big pitchers that are up at the plus 180s, plus 190s. They're minus 180, minus 190 on the other end because they're such heavy favorites. How many times do they win? How many times do they lose? Well, we kind of looked at some of that, kind of gave you some numbers on that. So it's just another phase that you look at, something else. And I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear about it. If you have these stories, if you have a question about any of these things, by all means, just send us an email. Send it to the sportswageringzone@gmail.com. And of course, this is the type of information we're going to supply for you as well, if and when we do get the newsletter put together. So if you have any interest in those type of things, let us know about the newsletter. If you're interested in it, we're trying to put it all together. Once again, send us an email, send it to the sportswageringzone@gmail.com, and just say, hey, I'm interested in it. I'll get back to you when the time comes if and when we do it. So thanks again for listening. Have a great day. It's let's go over those basketball games once again as well. We have the 2 games on tap in basketball. 76 against the Hawks. The pros are on the Hawks. The Phoenix Suns against Denver. The pros are on Denver. They're the 2 underdogs for those 2 games for tonight. As far as baseball's concerned. Padres against the Mets. We're on the dog there, the Padres, and the Braves against the Marlins on the dog in that one as well. On the Marlins in that game as well. So, like I said, once again, thank you very much for listening. We're here every Monday through Friday. We're here at 12 noon Eastern Time. However, Saturday and Sunday, tomorrow and Sunday, we will be here at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So that's for you to understand, get to know it. 11 and 12. 11 Saturday and Sunday, 12 noon, Monday through Friday. So once again, thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. If you're going to be betting today, I hope you have a profitable day. And if you're not betting, I hope you have a nice day. I hope you have a pleasant day. Spending some time with your family. It's Friday night. Maybe you go out and, tip a few over or whatever. Have some fun. Come back, get ready to do some work for the weekend, for Saturday and Sunday. You have the NBA, you got basketball. If you love hockey, there's some hockey out there as well. The golf tournament's still going on. You can get involved in that if you like as well. A lot going on. A lot for you to do. So once again, thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again tomorrow morning. Goodbye, everybody.